most like Satan. He desired the same thing, di ba? Okay kayo sila, vibes kasi ni God the Father sa langit. Punta na to. Pero when time came, he realized, siya nila yung Ginoo. Ako yung mag-uot sa kaugalingon ba? And most of the time, we do that. We play gods. Try na naman, okay naman pasay na rin, Ginoo. Or pasay, hindi ginato yung mind niya. Wag lang sana pagka-ugma kay ito po ito. Okay na to eh. At inga na itong mindset ba na we don't try to see things through God's eyes. And here's one testimony that I will tell you that I haven't shared many, no. Tawag naman kita that I'm in a relationship, right? Ingan yun. I'm in a relationship for 3 years already, and admittedly, there are those times that you feel tempted. Mga friends, ginabuhat lagi nila. Mga tao, kailangan, close ako, ginabuhat, pero naman, Christian, mga ito sila. There are those times I try to ask God, Lord, hindi man pwede. Why can't I have sex outside the context of marriage? Why can't I do that when they can do that? But you know what? You know what God tells me? You don't have to do that because you are set apart. You are called to be unlike any other. You don't give the enemy that inch of your thought no nga tungkol lang kay ginaunaan mo, then you dwell upon it and then you do it, you conceive it. Tinoon lang. I have those kinds of questions. Unfair lagi kayo. Dahil lagi na kay pag ako na rin masayang lagi kayo, or mahilag lagi kayo, sila na, okay na lagi. I asked God that question, anong kinanglan magiging ko kayo, mananigin ko. Kung masayog din, kung magsayog din, makakapagpon, kung binumak ako na, sige, dawa nga na error. Kaya, don't you have that? Don't you want to desire that kind of relationship from God that when you're about to do something, because you have read the Word, you have prayed to God, you have meditated, and ask Him for wisdom, He would intervene in every part of your life. And He wouldn't let you slip in that kind of sin. May mga times na, kung mo basa po yung bulway, nagawa mo, kuwanin ka mo, sharing ni tahan, ano mo kuman? We have those kinds of moments eh. Pero when faced with battles, with spiritual battles, with those unseen battles, you could really see that those things that you're going through, nasa'y result. You become more strengthened in God. And you would realize that it's more precious to wait on God than to waste your time on some other things. Okay, i-compare mo na ito kasagaran to ourselves, and that is pride. Lord, siya Lord, siya nagkatag siyang times Lord, pero natong lagi siya. Wala yung gitaw, simba Lord, pero sakit na Lord. At yung nga ng mga moments when we ask God those kinds of things. Why Lord? Why? For God is always His reason, and His reason is the best. So we should always wait on God and listen to Him, even though it's difficult. I openly talk about this with Eric, boyfriend, because we don't want to do something that is kind of displeasing, not just to my parents but to God. And we talk about it, and then I tell him, love, dili yun kay dili ko gusto abot ang judgment. Ang gusto yan para judgment day. Judgment day yun. Gusto nga abot sa judgment day kay makita rin ni Lord. Lagi ba? Do we have that kind of mindset? And we're doing something, when we're sinning, we're doing vices, we're drinking outside, we're doing all of those gambling and stuff. Do we pause and think, does this glorify God? It's sometimes pride that is stopping us from surrendering to God. No? We don't admit na limited na. We don't admit na kanang di na to kaya ang tanan, Lord. Mabuhay na nga, kita lang. Wala, so kita lugar naganak sa imo, Lord. Kita lugar nag-iwang sa imo sa tiyan sa mama, di ba? Now the third one, this one is most common po ni sa ato ang mga Christians, no, nga kanang ang reason why we can't surrender to God because we are confused with a lot of things. Same way with Habakkuk. He was so confused. Lord, why are you letting this happen to your people? Ginoo makaka, anong dagang ka injustice, kahitabo. Why are they wallowing in sin? Why are they having sexual immorality? Ano man, Lord? He was asking. You know why these things are happening in our world right now? We're living actually in Babylon. These things are happening because of our choice. Each and every day, we wake up with two choices. Either we walk with the enemy, Satan, or we walk with God. Naala sa imo. Naakay pila ka, segundo lang, para una-unaan na imo. Ay, kung igna, nga tanan mo desisyon. Wala na, matugdablo lang lagi. Nakuha lang lagi ito, ngayon. Walang yun ako. Naipagpulang yun siya. Di ba na pwede, di ba? Every decision that we make has a consequence. And God has given us the time, not like 24 hours a day, the time to internalize everything. If this is something that would glorify God. If this is something that would make you grow in your relationship to the Lord. And sometimes, ma-confuse ta. That's why we don't surrender. Hindi mo ko Lord, uy, kay kanang ano lagi kuan, lagi ka kahit tabo lagi. O kasabot sa imo, Lord. Abi na ko, pag-ihatan na ako ni sa imuha kay mas ma-prosper ko. Maybe because God is blessing me in another way and not in that aspect. No? We cannot understand His ways. His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We need to suffer in order to change what needs to be changed. That's why we're confused, because we think that when we're suffering, God is not doing anything. Say, God, do something about this. Pero pasatan ka niya nga, wonder ko ka na, maybe because you needed to go through that in order to transform for Him. You wouldn't be able to reach your destination unless you go through the process, di ba? If ever, for example, I'm working ko sa direct selling company. There are a lot of direct selling companies out there that goes on networking without a time. And networking kasagara is mag-buy kang product, it's either for 8,000 or plus, mga package, whatever. And then, you earn money through recruitment. Di ba kasagara? Kung dagang tao, dagang kwarta. Pero wala kasagara yung produkto nga gaka-sell ni mo. And that's di ba? That's unfair. Nga magsira, mag-recruit, tapos yung ginabuhat kay ikaw nag-earn. So, in a direct selling company, that's, what we call as, ano na yung tinatawag na scam, pyramid scheme, muna siya. So, they don't want to go through the process. Gusto na sila madato. Sabi na mag-post, basta mag-post na yung picture with the kwarta. Hindi na yung scam. Mga fan of money. Bantay lang lagi. Ito one time, inuulan ko unong direct selling company college pa ko ato. Kabalo ka. Kabalo ka muna siya ng mga direct seller dali. Kapag siya yung laptop. Na ako'y, within 1 year na siya Ford. Ang kanina, na yung balay, within 1 year. Kuan, kaya siya, na siya kuan. Na kaya siya kwarta. In 1 year. Pila na ka-years nila siya. Kuan na, 3 years na. Asa yung sakyanan? Siya, ay wala pala gigo. Alis na wag yun rin na vita. Kaya nila gusto mo go through sa process. Diba? Gusto mo nga madiretso ba? Hindi gusto maghago. So, sometimes in order for us to come out much more precious than diamonds, we need to go through the process of pressing, going through fire, and then being a product that is not barat Diba? Hindi nang basta-basta. The more we let God take over us, the more truly ourselves we become, and we have to understand that. If we try to look at our lives before we even knew God, before we even received God, do you think my changes? Naabay ka usaban? Can you say that I'm a different person now than I was before? Yes? God brings transformation when you allow Him to transform you. And it doesn't end the day you just said yes to God or accepted Him as your Lord and Savior. The time that I received Christ was when I was second year high school, October 10, 2010. And on that day, masigugo ang tubig sa bayabas. Nagpabaptize yun ko. No? And I felt something new that came in me. But the next day, normal lang yan. Normal lagi gahapon. Ba? Ano na? Because every day you need to die to your flesh. Every day you need to surrender to God. And in order to do that, we have to remove these barriers. The fear, the pride, the confusion that we have. In order to get closer to God, we need to get rid of all of these things. And how can you do that? If magsigig pala yun sa Ginoo, panulugas mga butang, Lord, tabangin biyo ako, Lord, ha, Lord, tabangin biyo ako. Tapos ang ending kay, wala ka nga nagkakotong mo. Holy Vertex said that the relief would just come after your action. The relief that you're seeking, or the answer that you're seeking, would come only after your action. Because God doesn't tell us nga, oh sige, kanang, dili ka maglakaw, para maayo yung dalan, para mag-grow ka. Di ba kayo siguro nga, sige, lihok ta ka, move on, guys, sa pila ka steps. Dili naman yung nanang, we're not robots. He gave us the will to decide for our own. So God instructs us, that's why we have to obey, to be able to walk according to His Word and receive all of those blessings. And despite the struggles we still feel the joy. But you can't call Jesus your Lord when you refuse to obey Him. When ka, Lord, ka na, ikaw na Lord, the best kay ka, like Sunday na, Lord, yes, Lord. But ito obey sa Ginoo, saan ka na? Yun siya, His mandate is to read my Word, to meditate on my Word day and night, to call upon Him every day, to seek Him, to glorify Him, do everything for the glory of God. Are we doing that? When we surpass all of these barriers, there is a blessing that waits for you, no? So kinanglan ginatok ni nga kanang i-practice daily, but even though it's hard to die on your flesh, di ba? If it's literally dying, you think it's easy? Dili, di ba? When you see Christ dying on the cross, you think that was easy, dili ba yan? And He said, you partake of my suffering. When you receive me, you need to follow me and carry your cross. Wala siya yun nga. Yeah. If you want to follow me, sige ako dala sa yung cross. Wala tingnan ginawa ng pagpagkala niya. Okay lang, chill lang. No, He did not say that. He did not say nga, pag magkuhan ka, hayahay na kinabuhi. No. He said, carry your cross. That's what it means to be a Christian. Maybe sometimes, thinking na to, basta Christian ka rin pagkahayahay. Wala na yung problema, ano na yun? No? But being a Christian is hard. But it's not costly. Na magansita. Because at the end of the road, at the end of judgment, God would give us the crown of life. He would say to you, don't you want to hear God say to you, thou good and faithful servant, come into the joy of the Lord. Or gusto ka mong kalungsya nga, depart from me, I never knew you. You choose. You choose kung sa'yo gusto yun sa gano'n sa iyong mukha, no? But when you try to surrender each and every day, we're not perfect. Wala kang yung perfect sa ito. Only God is perfect. But when we strive to perfection, and we try our best to follow God and everything that He says in His Word, then we become more fulfilled in our lives. maybe seeking ta, natin mga naging kulang sa kinabuhi. Basta kulang lang nagbasa ng Bible. Basta kulang lang ka og praise and worship sa iya on your own time. Dili na ng group, no? Kanang ikaw lang yun og Ginoo. Take a walk. Talk to him while you're walking. Balang, nabuang lagi na siya. Wala ka diha. Wala din ha, oh. Pagin na nga nabuang, alay kayo, sorry na Jesus gani, oh, di ba? That's opportunity. So the blessing of surrender are the following. When you surrender, you experience peace. When you surrender, you experience freedom. When you surrender, you experience God's power. If you're thinking, sa kadaladugan yung mga Christian naka-ludugan na ako Christian or true, pero may nagipala kong sigang ako ang holy fire deep inside me. Basta wala ka nagkuan, wala ka nang iksudlod sa Ginoo. Nagkandikan-kandikan na kaging ito na ka. Isa-isa, wala ka nang iksudlod sa Ginoo. Or you're not even spending time with the people that would help you grow with God. We need that. We need people na when Christ, uy, I beg you up. Uy, eto pa lang tentasyon. Uy, palayo na. Uy, simpatan. Maybe we lack those kinds of things, no? Wala ta na nagsunog. May kapalong yun ko lang. Tapos ka rin ito na kapag magsunog ka. Lain-lain mag-yun. Inasak mo simba. Naon sana, di ba? Karang mapalong yun ka, you would become an ash. But God is a good God and He gives you that resurrection. That's why when God gives you that opportunity, grab it. Now, aside from the blessing of surrender, surrendering to God is the best way to live. It's the best way to live, I tell you. Everybody eventually surrenders to something or someone, right? In our lives, we have different kinds of thrones. We give time for different kinds of things. Pero ang kinsa na ito ginahatag ato ang seat sa itong kasing-kasing. Who are we giving? Who are we surrendered to? If we're not surrendered to God, then who are you surrendered to? Are you surrendered to sin? Are you surrendered to your confusion, to your fear, to your doubt, to your anxiety? Are you surrendered to your work? Maybe not surrendered, but you are imprisoned by all of those things. If not God, you will surrender to the opinions or expectations of others. You will surrender to money. You will surrender to resentment. You will surrender to fear or to your own pride or even your lust or ego. You are not free from the consequences of that choice. If you're suffering for God, then you're suffering for the right reason. The past few Sundays, we've been talking about suffering, right? And most of the time, we suffer for the wrong reasons. Let's choose to suffer for God. Because that is much more fruitful than suffering for the world. Unsa may kaginansa nato? What will a man gain when he give his life to the world but lose his own soul, di ba? Maybe there are times sa ibang life na mayon ka nga, di lang mag-Christian ba, ilisod man di kayo, surrender man nila kung oras. Be careful when you try to think about that. Maybe that's the enemy tempting you to say, break away. Ako man ka, ako nabali na siya, mas dili good. Ako man ka. A long time ago, I've already spooled you in that thread, and you're not gonna be free from that. Sometimes, our surrender is hindered by lack of deliverance. We're Christians, but there are some things and some rooms of our lives or in our lives that we don't give to God. Panamita na kay apartment. I have shared this a few months back already, but na kay apartment. And then, God asks you, oh, ako sa'yo pa na, ako mag-caretaker sa mga apartment. At ang yabi. But there's that one room, hindi ko palagdan sa Ginoo. Lord, ayun lang ni. Ayun lang ni Lord. Not my career, not my fame, not my lusts of this world. Ayun lang ni Lord. Fun mo, good be fun. We don't want to surrender that to God. That's our problem. We give 95% most of the time, but not our 100. Hindi na ito ginatang sa ito 100. Piling na ito, magaling sa kita. 5% na lang galing ni Lord. Lord. Kung pagod ba ka ng, sana, kuan pagod ba? Sana, umangangyo pagod ba nga, kanina nang good Lord kamay na. Kanina ba ito ang masala? Kanina ba ito ang masala? Lord, di naman itong dako masala. Nabarid ako gamay nga sala. It's all sin. It's all the same in God's eyes. And I want you to know that surrendering is never just a one-time event. It's not a one-time event. It's everyday battle with your flesh. And there are times that you would feel defeated. But don't lose hope. Take heart. God has already overcome the world. No? Na a moment of surrender, but that's not what we want as Christians, as followers of Jesus. We want a practice of surrender. Daily. Di lang moment nga, sana kayo bumili ng surrender na ko. Kung bang Monday naman, Monday okay na. Muna ang Sunday. Muna ang surrender, no? So, kino mo ng problema. You know what's funny? When I was reading Warren book, sa day 10, he said that we are a living sacrifice. Diba? And what's a living sacrifice? Of course, gina-surrender, magina, diba? Kasi living sacrifice, good ta. God even describes us that here, it's living sacrifice. Pero the problem is, what's yung observe sa living surrender or living sacrifice? Now we notice. Okay, yun ang living sacrifice. What comes to your mind?
Animals.
Animals. Ano man? Living sacrifice. Buhi. And the problem of it is, when it's alive, there are tendencies that it crawls out from the altar. Living sacrifice man. Yung ko na yung Lord, sakripisyo din ako. Sakripisyo ako kuya, sakripisyo ako kwarta. Maghinay-hinay at nakaw sa altar. Hala. Hinay-hinay lang Lord, one step out. Living sacrifice eh. Kapag ko nga, ano? Living sacrifice, but tapos magiging tendency yung medyo susi mo gamay. Pero, we always have a choice to choose God and choose surrender over and over again. Even though at times na yung bira sa to, ayun na, dili na lang ka kay, mas okay na ni. But, surrendering to God may be a huge sacrifice, but that sacrifice would never be, it would never be something na malas of value, no? Dili siya kawang yung pag-sacrifice. Even Jesus, nanghangyo siya. When he was about to be crucified, he prayed to God, said, Father, take this cup away from me. If pwede. But if not, if this is your will, then your will be done. We should pray like that, no? Your will be done, Lord. Lord, mahangyo daw sa'yo, Lord. Pwede lang yun, dili lang, pero sige. I'm reminded with what Mama and Papa were praying before when I was born. Wala kadungong nga ba nakadugtong lang ko sa inyo. They were praying to God that when I was at the hospital, when I was newborn, there was less chance of me surviving. Kaya naman ko yung Wiedemann syndrome. And it's a rare congenital anomaly. And may possibility na mamatay ko, mabuhay ko, abnormal. Normal ba kasi? Normal lang. But they asked God, Lord, if this child, if you're gonna take this child, so be it. But if you're gonna give this child to God, she's gonna serve you with all her life.
Amen.
And I am so so grateful that my parents said that prayer. Because at times when I feel challenged sa faith, at times when I feel like I'm gonna back down, hindi na ako kaya, Lord, binalang ko. I am reminded when the day that God saved me from that day forward, when I was offered to Him as a living sacrifice. And that should be our daily decision. To surrender to God, to surrender to His Word, and to serve Him with all our hearts and with all our minds. To love Him with all our hearts, with all our minds, and with all our soul. No? So that's my challenge for you this morning. If there's something that God wants you to surrender, if napay isa ka butang, or duha, or pila man ang butang nga, wala pa niya surrender sa Ginoo, surrender it to Him. It will be worth it. It will be totally worth it. You may not see it now, but God would always come through to His promises. Let's rise and pray.